Hey guys, back with another video, and before I start this, I want to say that I did say it would be, it took a bit more time to make this video because I've been a bit busy, so I just wanted to say that before we begin with this video essay, which I did promise like 2 weeks ago. It's coming today, and I'm really excited for this one because if you think about the U.S., you think, oh, probably a really bad team, like universally known for being really bad. But the 1950 World Cup was a very interesting one, and it was a very interesting tournament for England. It was England's first ever World Cup. It was USA's first ever World Cup, and one day on June 29th, 1950, something crazy happened. But let's get into the backstory. So the 1950 World Cup was in Brazil. It was going to be the first World Cup since like 1938, obviously because of World War II. Very unfortunate, but it came back in 1950, and it brought a few more nations. The groups of the nations were Brazil, Yugoslavia, Switzerland, Mexico in Group 1. Next group was Spain, England, Chile, and the USA. And then Group 3, you had Sweden, Italy, and Paraguay. And then Group 4, you had Uruguay and Bolivia. So there weren't a lot of teams, obviously compared to now, but it would bring a lot of new faces to it because it was a lot different. You only had 3 games, and going into the World Cup, obviously it would be the first World Cups in a while. So let's talk about England and USA. England now obviously haven't won a trophy since 1966, and it was their first World Cup. They had a load of world star players, and they had a lot of good talent, obviously in the English league or whatever it was called back then. And USA, well, let's just say they had a bunch of amateurs. They would be paired up with Spain and Chile as well. The first few games for them, England won against Chile 2-0, and Spain won against USA 3-1. Then there was the other game of Spain beat Chile 2-0. But here was the big game was USA versus England, the 1950 World Cup, which would be in Belo Horizonte. I think that's how you say it, in Belo Horizonte. It was like a regular game. It should have been a very easy game for England. So now let's go into England, their side. They had it again. It was their first ever World Cup, and they didn't have a lot of experience in it, but they did have a lot of great players, and they really had a very good chance at least making it to the final round. And there shouldn't be really a lot of harm. Spain was going to be pretty good, but Chile and USA, pretty easy ones. And also, the England's record had a reputation as the kings of football, because they had a crazy post-war record with 23 wins, 4 losses, and 3 draws. They had beaten the Italians 4-0, who won the World Cup in 1934, and the Portuguese 10-0 in Lisbon. So that's kind of crazy. 2 weeks before it began. In comparison, the Americans, despite having reached the semifinals of the 1930 World Cup, so I did get that wrong. Sorry. They had made the World Cup in 1930. They made it to the semifinals and lost their 7 international matches, including the 1934 World Cup and the 1948 Summer Olympics, by a combined score of 45-2, including heavy losses to 7-1 to Italy and 11-0 to Norway. Also a 5-0 loss to Northern Ireland. So going in this, the odds are 3-1, 3 out of 1 that the English would win out of the World Cup, and 501 for the U.S. And a lot of people thought that it should have been lower because the U.S. previous had done terrible, and it had been 20 years since they had gone into the World Cup. So let's just say they didn't have a lot of good chance. And a lot of people in Brazil were eager to watch, with 10,000 tickets sold, along with 3,000 distributed to the associates of 7 de Setembro Futebol Clube. Yeah, It's okay, what I said. Then owners of the newly inaugurated Estadio Independencia. Also, England had Stanley Matthews, who was widely considered one of the best players in the world at the time, but he had not played with the England national team in the free international matches before the World Cup. And back then there was no subbing, so that was a different. And he actually joined the team late, having been touring Canada as part of another group of England internationals. And such a selection committee consisting entirely of like Andrew Drury, then president of the Football League in England and later president of FIFA, opted to stay with the team and had just defeated Chile. Matthews would be saved for later, supposedly more difficult opponents, because USA, they had a bunch of amateurs, and back then, like, the games were really rampant, just as today, like in the World Cup. So they wanted to save him, not risk anything, so didn't play him in this game. And how wrong would they be? Because we'll get to later. Incidentally, the England team, which toured Canada, beat the United States team preparing for World Cup 1-0 in New York City. So yeah, the American team didn't have a lot of players, most of whom had jobs to support their families, like Walter Barr, Frank Borghi. And by the way, these are all like regular jobs. Like Frank Borghi drove a hearse for his uncle's funeral home. I don't really know. And then Walter Barr was a high school teacher. So yeah, and the one player, Ben McLaughlin, had to withdraw from the tournament because he could not get time off work. So these all were just amateurs. They were all just regular people. The England team had amazing players, so it was really expected for the England to beat them. But they did hassle the team together only once. What happened to be on the day before they left for Brazil against the touring English team, featuring a lot of players. They did have three good players: Joe Maka, Ed McElveny, and Joe Gaetjens, none of whom were a U.S. citizen, had been added to the roster just before the game. And the coach said, "We have no chance," said recently Bill Jeffrey told the press. He also declared his players sheep ready to be slaughtered. So yeah, he didn't have a lot of hope. So yeah, and also the English Daily Express newspaper wrote it would be fair to give the U.S. 3 goals of a start. So it's safe to say that no one had any shot like of the U.S. They were clearly gonna lose like 10-0, get terribly destroyed. But now let's get to the half. The first game, the second game for both teams. But let's begin with the first half of England versus USA at Belo Horizonte. Although Walter Barr regularly served as a captain for the United States, Ed McElveny was selected for his role for the protected match because he was British. I don't know why. England would win kickoff. Within 90 seconds, though, Stanley Morrison sent a cross from left wing to Roy Bentley, who left off a shot who Frank Borghi, who was the goalkeeper, saved. But by the 12th minute, England had 6 clear shots on goal but could not convert, with 2 shots hitting the post, one just going over the top, and one really good save from Borghi. So, by the way, I think there's probably a lot of Italian names because obviously around this time Italy was a lot of Italian people migrated to England. U.S. The U.S. struggled to move the offense and finally managed a shot on goal in the 25th minute, which was blocked by English goalkeeper Bert Williams. The English counterattacked with 3 successive clear shots at the goal in minutes. In 3 minutes, by the way. So very impressive at the 30th, 31st, and 32nd, but failed to score. Morrison twice, he twice had shots, so it was really close. And had 2 over the crossbar, and Tom Finney's header to top corner was tipped by Borghi. So by this time, England were pretty much dominating the U.S., who didn't have a lot of chances. But in the 37th minute, Bahr took, again, I don't really know his name, Bahr, it's B-A-H-R, so kind of hard to say. Bahr, I'm just going to call him Bahr. Bahr took a long shot from 25 yards out, but as Williams moved to his right to intercept, incredible shot, Gaetjens dived headlong near the penalty spot and grazed the ball enough to put it to the top left of the English goalkeeper, whose momentum prevented him from changing direction and into the back of the net. So, it's incredible. Everyone thought that England would dominate. Look, like the English daily press said that let's give him 3 goals to start. Well, that would not happen. They scored, and the crowd exploded as the U.S. improbably led 1-0. As the half drew, Finney had a chance to equalize, but the whistle blew before he could shoot. And all the English and Brazilians were in complete disbelief. The crowd initially, 10,000 increased as Brazilian locals heard radio coverage of the match. Spectators were mostly supporting the underdog Americans, cheering of Borghi's saves and the unsuccessful English attacks. It was incredible, and Borghi was doing incredible, had over 10 saves, incredible goalkeeping. According to Bahr, the overwhelming majority was Brazilians, but they rooted for us the entire time. We didn't realize until after they were hoping we would beat England. The Brazil would not have to play England in the final game. Some locals even jumped a short wall to enter the stadium through the playing field. So you could see a lot of Brazilians were rooting for the U.S. mainly because they didn't want to have to play them in the final round. And by the way, there's no knockouts. There was no knockouts in the 1950 World Cup. It was like a final group stage, where the top 4 of all the groups went through. Now going into the second half, the U.S. players thought we scored. We're probably not going to beat them. So the U.S. played with renewed confidence as the second half opened, creating another scoring opportunity in the 54th minute. In the 59th minute, England was awarded a direct free kick, but Morrison's shot was saved well again by Borghi. But England began threatening again, and 15 minutes before the Americans were able to get another shot. With 8 minutes left, Charlie Colombo brought down Morrison with an illegal tackle at the edge of the penalty area, and just 8 minutes to go. A lot of Brazilian and American fans crushed hope because England were given a penalty and it could maybe just lose that draw, that win that they so nearly wanted, and unfortunately would have to deal with a draw. But the referee ruled it out because it was outside the box. Incredible scenes as the U.S. were saved just from Alf Ramsey's resulting free kick. Jimmy Mullen headed the ball for what he thought was a goal, but Borghi tipped it away at the last instant, and despite the protests of the English players, the referee ruled that the ball had not crossed the line and there was no goal. England did not threaten, but the U.S. had one final chance from Frank Wallace, drew Williams out of his position and fired a shot at the empty net, but was only denied by sliding goal line clearance by Ramsey. And after the match, even after that, England fans could not believe that. They could not believe that they had lost to an amateur U.S. side that no one had really played professionally. Again, it was all ordinary people playing jobs, having some jobs, and it was incredible. The England World Cup all-star team had lost to a bunch of Americans, which did not sink well for English people. And I know it's gonna get kind of controversial, but it kind of reminded people of the Revolutionary War. No one thought the Americans could win the Revolutionary War against the English, but they somehow did. And it would happen again 170 years later, something like that, again, but at the World Cup. So incredible scenes. For the rest of the World Cup, for the teams, USA will lose 5-2 to Chile, and England will lose 1-0 to Spain. And of that miracle on the grass, and June 29th, 1950, will go down as one of the greatest moments in U.S. history. Unfortunately, they would finish bottom. England would finish second, but they did not advance to the final round. And the final round, actually, fun fact, what happened was that in the final game, Brazil lost the final game. Actually, it's a true fact now that Brazil had the most amount of people ever for a stadium amount of game, for like a game, like an actual game, and they all went there to see them lose 2-1 to Brazil, which is to Uruguay. Uruguay won it. They're for the second since they won 1930. So yeah, very bad day for Brazilians because it's the most amount of people at the stadium and they lost that game. So yeah, after that the U.S. would not qualify for another World Cup until 1990 and then hosted in 1994. By the way, there's a very good video from FIFA talking about it. It was from like 8 years ago, where I got most of this information from. So watch that if you want to see some more in-depth. Because that video is also pretty good, made from FIFA. But that was the day where the English lost to U.S. in the 1950 World Cup. I hope you guys like this video essay because I loved it. I know I haven't made one in a while, but it's a very good one. And I'm trying to keep it up. The video, like a few days, these last few days I've been pretty busy, but I'm trying to keep it up because I've been liking it and the channel's been doing good. We're up to 132 subscribers. Thank you everyone for subbing. And by the way, so please everyone subscribe who aren't subscribed because 80% of you are not subscribed. Only 20% are subscribed. So please click that subscribe button down below. Click a like on the video and subscribe and comment down below what you think. I hope you guys like this video and I'll see you guys next time. See ya.